United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aciard. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aciard. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.
We're about news, commentary, conversations, truth, liberty, and God. We stand for American values and our flag. We believe that the Constitution is a document that fortifies rights already given to us by our Creator. We will not apologize for our love of God and country, ever. We are Right America Media.
I'm not here to tell you to buy American Eagle jeans. And I definitely won't say that they're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn. Or that they make your butt look amazing. Why would I need to do that? But if you said that you want to buy the jeans, I'm not going to stop you. But just so we're clear, this is not me telling you to buy American Eagle jeans.
Sidney Sweeney has very keen.
You see what I did there, right?
going to be pissed off that you're pissed off. Let's just keep the cycle going. Welcome to a brand spanking new edition of Granite State Live. I'm going to say it's good to be back here in the saddle after, I don't even know how long it's been. Has it been 4 weeks? I lost track, to be honest with you. Tuesday, the 5th day of August, as a matter of when I was updating my show notes here, I think the last time that I had updated these were in June. So it's been, I think it's gone for pretty much the entire month of July here. Pretty crazy. I'm your host, Keith Hansen, the unapologetic contrarian conservative, heavily armed as always. Never apologizing for my toxic white masculinity. I can't help it, kids. I was born this way. Never apologizing for my Christian faith.
And I'm your co-host, Julian Aiello, and once again, Keith is back in the saddle. I got my buddy back. I got my co-pilot back. We're ready to drop some bombs and start some shit and piss you off today. It's going to be an excellent episode. We got plenty of fantastic guests. Welcome back to Granite State Live. Make sure to go to ramtv.com and get all the past episodes. Make sure to download, share, like, retweet, all that good stuff, and catch the replay on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of that good stuff. And you know what? If you don't like it, keep it to yourself.
No, actually, if you don't like it, tell us, because I'm more than happy to listen to people bloviate about what they like and what they don't like and what they think. That's always interesting. Yeah, tell me what it is you think you know. That's the beautiful thing. Yeah, tell me what you think it is. Tell me what you think you know, and then we'll start the conversation from there. First of all, I want to say, Julian, thank you for covering for the past couple of weeks here. I know it's been a little bit crazy. I don't know what it is, but somebody flipped a switch a couple of weeks ago, and man, did it just, I mean, I had all kinds of things socially that were booked. And then just all of a sudden the switch flipped, and I have been in 9 different states here over the past 3 weeks. It's been absolutely crazy, and it is just getting started. So
honestly, it's been a heavy past 3 weeks. We had Pastor Josh Barnes on the show to help co-host, and we have a good rapport with him. Great conversations. We've had fantastic guests. So you were definitely missed. Definitely that fire and ice that we play off of each other was definitely missed. Me and Josh were more like ice and ice. So
that sounds like a really bad Lifetime movie. Ice and Ice.
Ice, ice, baby.
Oh god. We were driving from 9-hour and 45-minute drive from Tennessee to Virginia, and my co-pilot on the drive decided that we had to listen to Snow's Informer.
Really?
And try to figure out what the lyrics were. That was the challenge, was listen to Snow's Informer and try to figure out what the lyrics are. And I would like to know, and actually I did figure this out, you licky boom boom down, that's the last, and I was always thinking, man, that just sounds like the most obscene. It's actually, licky licky is a Jamaican slang term for a gun.
Yep.
And then down is, of course, murder. So licky boom boom down is you murder somebody with a gun. It's like, well, okay, so I am brushing up on my Jamaican ghetto slang. I feel so enlightened. My horizons have been expanded and broadened in a way that I just never gave a rat's pajamas about. So that's.
But you know what? Music back in the day used to have. You used to use euphemisms for doing things, whether it's sexual, whether it's violent, and it made it more easy to listen to, more enjoyable, because it was just fun.
Yeah.
Most people didn't. If you my wife just re-listened to Rocky Like a Hurricane. She's like, I didn't know that this was a song about sex. I go, yeah. Everything in the 80s was about sex. I was like, sex and drugs and rock and roll.
And even the term rock and roll is a euphemism for, when you see the van rocking and rolling, you don't come knocking, I guess is what the thing is.
She's like, wow, that's, how many songs were like this back then? I go, all of them. And they were better. They were better for it. It's a lot better than choke me, slam me, throw me through a wall.
You know what the scary thing, though, is you remember, what was his name there? The Prodigy. So the Prodigy was like industrial metal. I don't know what you would really classify it as. It was kind of in a genre of itself. But the Prodigy did a song called Smack My Bitch Up.
Yes.
And the scary thing is that somewhere out there's a couple that when that song plays, one looks at the other and goes, hey, honey, they're playing our song. I I attended a wedding a couple of years ago in York, I think it was York, Maine. One of the most interesting weddings that I had ever attended. And the wedding song was Prince's Purple Rain.
Ooh.
Which, to me, is not a wedding song.
Yeah, you could say that. That would be right up there with like playing Mustang Sally or Dirty Diana or Little Red Corvette. It'd be like, I don't think this fits the moment.
Scenes from an Italian Restaurant by Billy Joel. When they're talking about, what's her, I forgot what the character, Eddie, Brenda and Eddie, and how they wind up divorced and all that. It's like that. It's like, I never meant to hurt you. I never meant to cause you any pain, from Prince.
Yeah.
Again, not really a wedding song, but the wedding started 2 hours late because the preacher who was supposed to be officiating the ceremony wound up rolling her car 3 times on 95 on the way up from the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So the brides, this is an older couple, they were both their second marriage. The bride's son ran back to the hotel, got on the Universal Life Church website.
Oh, God.
Put $29.95 on a credit card to get ordained as a minister, and then officiated the ceremony.
Hey, I am a member of the Universal Life Church. I have been ordained as a minister. I can marry you. I actually, back in 2021, I married my dad and my stepmom.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
That's
officiated their ceremony
in
my backyard.
Forgive me, Father, for we're about to sin. So. All right, coming up on tonight's program, got a great show for you. We're going to be talking about ceasefires with former Marine Corps Colonel. I guess you're never a former Marine. It's just you're non-practicing, I guess.
Yes.
Marine Corps Colonel William Burner Dunn. He is a retired U.S. Marine Corps military attack chopper pilot and president of Strategic Resilience Group. We're going to be talking about the ceasefires. Are ceasefires actually a sign towards progress in peace, or is it an opportunity for these terrorist groups to regroup?
Depends on which stage of the ceasefire you're in.
To a certain degree. Yeah, and I can kind of get that. All right, ceasefire. Oh, great. The fighting has stopped. Right, because we've retreated to our respective corners, and now we're improving, we're fine-tuning, we're tweaking our attack strategy. So we're going to have that conversation coming up with Colonel Dunn. That's going to be coming up at 7:30. At 8:30, we're going to be talking about the new EU tariffs. That's going to be coming up with, Gary Galls from the Mises Institute, great organization. And then coming up at 8:30, we're going to, or the show notes here, Thomas Aiello. I guess no relation to Danny Aiello from Hudson Hawk fame. Remember that movie? Did you ever see that movie?
Love that movie. Absolutely love that movie.
Do you really?
Yes. My dad got me on it when I was a kid. Like when they're singing and they're going through their attempt to steal the horse.
Yeah. What song is that? Remember that? Would you like to swing on a star?
Yes.
Carry moonbeams home in a jar. Thank you.
And they timed it perfectly down to the last second as everything is crumbling around them, security guards falling all over themselves, just strolling through on a skateboard, just surfing through. One of Bruce Willis's most underrated movies.
So now he's not doing well at all, Bruce Willis.
No.
And who's taking care of him? Demi Moore.
Yeah.
The ex-wife. So, I don't know. Maybe is it for love or money? I don't know. Remains to be seen. So Thomas Aiello is going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about the costs on the tariffs now, estimated to cost Americans an average of $2,048 a year. Listen, kids, I've said this before as an equal opportunity excoriator. By the way, you can't say that because that's my tagline. As an equal opportunity excoriator, I don't give a rat's ass if you're a Republican or a Democrat. People are out to screw the American people. That's the bottom line. A lot of things that we were expecting to see with Trump, we're not seeing. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go out here on a limb, and I'm going to say I think that Trump is complicit in what's going on with the Epstein files, because you're either a part of the solution or you're a part of the problem. And if you're not releasing the information, what are you trying to hide? The American people are sick and tired of being lied to.
I think the big issue is.
And we're being lied to.
This wouldn't have been an issue had he not made it a campaign promise. Had this not been a campaign promise, this would have been something, and I've said it many times. We've talked about the Epstein files over the past few weeks since you've been gone, and I've said it repeatedly. This wouldn't have been a problem, or at least not a problem for him, had he just left it alone. But because he made it a campaign promise, and because Pam Bondi made promises, and they said they had a list, but then they don't have a list, but they know who is a part of his little extracurricular flights to his island, but they don't. His house was wired for audio and sound, but they don't have any tapes or any visual, and he wasn't actually recording people. Are you shitting me? And this on the back of the Diddy trial were very similar circumstances, with his entire house being wired for audio and sound and different sexual activities and stuff. And I'm sitting here going, you're telling me there's no there, but this entire time you've been telling me there's something there. I don't believe you now because you kept fueling the fire. So you're in this pot of hot water because you kept turning up the heat. And now you don't like the fact that your skin is getting burned. So call it like it is. If you're going to tell me, I would have believed you if you had said, look, we thought when we were getting, it's from the beginning. We thought when we got into office, we were going to find a bunch of files. We were going to find everything. Looks like the Democrats kept it, destroyed it, whatever. I would have been like, okay, that sounds par for the course. But you didn't. You brought a bunch of influencers to the White House. You handed them binders. You told them to go out there and distribute information that everybody already knew. And there's way too much shit that is unexplainable by what they've said. So now they have to go back and they have to release all the information. They have to do a subpoena. They said now they're bringing in the Clintons, and they have to keep. Now they have to provide it because you kept teasing us with it. So now you're in the hot seat.
At this point in time, I would be happier, and I would be able to accept it better if somebody in the ruling class just came out and said, there's a two-tiered system of justice, and what we're going to hold you accountable to is not what we will be held accountable to. At least I can respect the duality.
That would be
honest. But stop pissing down my back and telling me it's just a warm spring rain.
And, I was having a conversation about this with a friend over a cigar, and they're like, come on, let's be honest. I never expected to get the Epstein files because elites protect elites. It is a system, like George Carlin said, it is a big club and none of us are in it. The reality is every elite benefits. So, Julian,
I'm going to ask you a question, and you're not going to expect this question.
Okay.
Why do you keep kissing their asses?
What do you mean?
You personally. Why do you kiss their asses? Why do you kiss Scott Brown's ass?
I like Scott Brown. I drink beers with him.
He's a fucking grifter. He's a fucking grifter. Get him out of politics. All of these people, dude, they make promises that they're never going to keep. They use the little people to advance themselves, but they're never going to keep these promises. We're seeing it with Trump. We've seen it with Brown. We've seen it with every single one of these godforsaken politicians. I, for one, am done with this. I'm done with it.
I'm able to remain friends with so many people. It's simply because I start off dividing the individual from their politics. Until you make your entire personality your politics, I can divide the two. And I can be like, all right, the guy I drink beers with is the guy I drink beers with. The guy in politics is the guy in politics. Now, the issue is, do you treat me, do you lie to me to my face? Are you bullshit to me to my face? Scott Brown, every time I'm around him, is the same Scott Brown I'm always around.
Is there a way that he can use you to advance himself, and that's why he's being nice to you?
No.
No?
No, because at the point where we met each other, we were just having beers. Gail, he had a show up at Blue Ocean Lounge in Salisbury, and Gail invited me. I was running against Gail at the time. She invited me, just being nice, jovial, to the show, and I was working late, and I was like, hey, I'm in the area. I'll stop by the show. So I stopped by the show, had drinks, met his daughters, met his son-in-laws, met the whole family. We drank, we had a couple beers, we danced, watched his band play, and we were cool. And every time I'm around them, they are always the same people. I can deal with a person like that even when I disagree with them, because that's a person that treats me honestly. And he'll tell me when he disagrees with me, or tells me when he thinks I'm saying something stupid or doing something dumb. And I can respect people who disagree with me. I agree. Like, that's why I like you. You tell me when you think I'm wrong. I tell you when I think you're wrong. And we're cool because we know where each other stand. Where I have an issue with are the people who are two-faced about it. So, like, I can deal with Kelly Ayotte because Kelly Ayotte treats me the exact same no matter where we are. I can deal with Byron Donalds. I can deal with a lot of people because they treat me the same way no matter what room we're in. The issue I have is, do you change how you treat me when we're around other people? So if we had a great rapport and then all of a sudden we walk into a room and we're surrounded by other people, like I've always had a good relationship with Kelly Ayotte, even though I voted for Chuck Norris and I supported Chuck Norris. If I walked into a room with Kelly Ayotte and all of a sudden she acted like I didn't fucking exist, like we haven't had a good rapport over the past few years, then I would be like, all right, so you really are your politics. You are that person. And now I can't divide the two. And there's people that I like that I can't divide the two, and I realize they are their politics, and that is just who they are at their core. And then there are people that I know are separate people outside of politics, and I see that and I go, there's either some cognitive dissonance here, which with a lot of people it is. There's a lot of intellectual inconsistency and cognitive dissonance in the way people portray themselves privately versus politics. And then there's outright overt dishonesty.
I've seen. I've interviewed more politicians, candidates. I've interviewed more sitting politicians. One who was the Massachusetts gubernatorial candidate down at CPAC?
Jeff Deal.
Jeff Deal. Thank you. Do you remember that? Remember that?
Oh, yes, I do. Because you ripped him a new asshole, and then I had to follow up the interview.
No, you know what? No. I didn't rip him. It was the way that I
question was to me.
I know. Well, to him, I remember.
No, right after you excoriated him. You know what your first question to me was?
What?
All right, Julian. You saw I just interviewed that guy. Friggin' what the fuck makes you different in this pile of goddamn grifters that exists at fucking CPAC?
Well,
and I was
CPAC
like, excuse my F-bombs, people, but that was exactly how the interview went. And I was like, so it's going to be that kind of day?
So if you remember the interview with Jeff Deal, he came on and it was just, I had reached my grifter fill for the day.
That was a bad CPAC.
That was a very bad CPAC.
Yeah, we were both in a really bad mood by the end of that.
And that was Dallas, I think, or was that
CPAC Dallas?
Was that Dallas?
Yeah, that was. We had cigars.
Oh, it was Orlando. It was Orlando. That was the Orlando when they were still on the quasi lockdown, when they had taken the water stations away. This was at the height of COVID.
Yeah.
And people were getting chewed out because they would take a mask. First of all, a lot of the people were like, screw you and your mask policy. Yeah. I'm not going to. My body, my choice. If it works for you, it's going to work for me and bodily autonomy. But, yeah, that was, oh boy. So Jeff Deal, and this is archived definitely, so you can definitely check this interview out. Jeff Deal comes out. He's a Republican candidate for governor in Massachusetts, and he came on, and I just said, all right, I have had literally hundreds of politicians and candidates standing in front of me telling me that they are the one person that is going to make a difference. They are beyond reproach. Their integrity and their honor and their character is not for sale, and this is what I'm going to do. So why should I believe a single word that you say? What is it about you, Jeff Deal, that makes you different from every other grifter that has stood where you are and made promises that you have neither the intention nor the ability to keep?
And then I got the same question right after.
And then he looks at me, and I'm looking at Juan's smirk because he was right there. And the look on Juan's face was like, this is going off the rails, but let's not hit we couldn't go to a commercial at that point. No, for me, this is the thing. I have met so many people in the political realm. There are, on this hand, I can count the number of people that I would say are actually honest to God servants of the people.
Yeah.
Byron Donalds being one of them.
Yes.
Byron is, and I've known Byron since before Byron was ever involved in politics. He was a personal friend before he got into politics.
Byron's my boy. Every time I see him, he stops whatever the hell he's doing to walk over, talk to me, and we're not talking politics. We're talking wife. We're talking kids. We're talking real life.
I know his family. I know his wife very well. There's an individual who I believe is his honor and his integrity are intact. And he is a person that he's the only candidate, he's the only politician that I've ever publicly in the media realm endorsed. I've never done that for anybody, but I did it for Byron because I believed so much in what Byron's message was and what I believed his character and his integrity would lead him to do if he were elected to represent the people of the state of Florida.
Yep.
So with that being said, I am so disgusted and disheartened, and I to be honest with you, somebody asked me once, they said, if you could have one wish, what would it be? And I said, I would like to have, just for an hour, the ability to go back and see the world through my 5-year-old eyes.
Damn.
Give me one wish. If I could do anything, I want to see the world through the eyes of an unaffected child. Not a child today who's sitting there swiping on social media at 4 or 5 years old. I'm talking about bring me back to 1978, 1979, when I was 4 years old, 5 years old, and I looked at the world as a magical place. Mm-hmm. And now I see the world for what it is. It is a corrupt, evil, immoral, unethical cesspool of scumbags who do nothing except stab other people in the back to advance their own personal agendas. Now, granted, there are some great people out there, and there are some beautiful things. But as a Christian, I love God, I love Christ. I cannot love this world because this world is evil.
Yes, it is.
And I would love to be able to shut that off. I would love to be able to shut it off. And just for, I mean, again, that's why I travel. I love to travel. I love to go to places that are nice, that are really untouched, because there's not that influence.
You know, if I wouldn't go back in time, and I wouldn't view the world through the rose-colored glasses that I had as a kid. But what I would do is I would increase our reach to tens, 20 millions of people so that we could actually get the voice out there to say the things that need to be said that people aren't willing to fucking say. Because that, like, I'm constantly breaking down the hyper-racialization in society, the hyper-religious factionalism, the hyper-violent crap, and trying to distill some level of, like, what you're seeing isn't reality in a lot of cases. The world is a lot more beautiful than we think it is, but if you live perpetually online, you're embroiled in a pile of steaming, heaping shit of everyone's attitudes and disgruntled backgrounds and bitterness on a regular basis. And if you put down your Twitter machine for 5 frickin' minutes and you go to the mall or you go to your local grocery store.
The mall?
Those still exist.
Okay, Stacy. Oh my God! Like, we're gonna go to Forever 21 and get an orange Julius.
But if you go to anywhere where people congregate, you see the vast majority of people aren't at each other's throats. And I wish I could be like, look, the world is not burning down like you think it is. Put down your Twitter machines. We're not in real life hyper-racial, hyper-religious, hyper-violent.
No, I say what I say, not saying it from the perspective of somebody that's living on social media. That's actually one of the reasons why I love the movie.
No, but you and me pay more attention to a lot of stuff than most people do.
I stay off of social. I have to be honest with you. In the 3.5 weeks that I have not been doing the show, that I've been focusing on just the traveling and the training and everything else, I have not been on social media.
But you're not a social media guy to begin with.
I'm not a social media guy to begin with because I recognize the evils. It's evil. It is an evil, and I've said this. I've been saying this consistently throughout my career as a broadcaster.
A voice of some level of nuance and brevity, because I see everybody's perfectly willing to throw everything to the side to grift off of this stuff. I'm going, so is this a race to the bottom? Are the whole world's flushing down the toilet and we're racing to see who's going to be the skid mark on the bottom of the toilet?
All I'm going to say is this: you watch Mike Judge movie Idiocracy. Then you look at where we were 10 years ago, you look at where we are today, and you look at where we're going.
You see the progression.
Idiocracy is absolutely a frightening, it is a terrifying prognostication of the direction that we're going. We're not getting smarter.
I think 20
years
from now,
we're getting dumber.
Oh, yes. Especially with the emergence of AI, we're actually seeing studies come out showing the more people use Grok, ChatGTP, all these things, the dumber they're getting. And the reason why is because they're using it to think for them. They're not using it to enhance their thinking.
Correct.
Like, when I use AI, I use it to enhance my thinking, to learn things I didn't learn, or or to do the research that otherwise would spend days searching on web when I could type in a prompt and get all the research at once, so I can learn faster.
Yeah.
I use it because I'm addicted to information. Like Johnny Five, I need input.
I'll tell you this. I went and I had to buy a new laptop yesterday. So went to Best Buy. My wife was with me. We were talking about it with the sales clerk said, oh, and this computer has Copilot. And my wife says, what's Copilot? And he says, well, it's like an AI. I use Copilot when I can't write good and I need it to sound better. So, and it was like, okay,
God.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, listen, you know what? Learn the trades, kids, because plumbing and air conditioning and heating and everything else like that, AI is not going to be replacing those jobs. But AI is going to be replacing all the people who are told, no, go learn coding. It's going to be a great career. All right, we do have to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Marine Corps Colonel William Burner Dunn. We're going to be talking about ceasefires juxtaposed with chaos. Don't go away.
New Hampshire Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte has been making a lot of noise about how she's funding education. The Republican budget she just signed provides more money for education than ever before. She even bragged the other day that New Hampshire is top 10 in the country when it comes to funding our children's education, as if giving money to school systems has anything to do with learning. If you look at the math, and if you got schooled in New Hampshire, the odds are good it's not your best subject. It's the exact opposite. The more money we throw at schools, the less kids learn. We're committed to wasting money on an experiment that failed, unless wasting money to drive parents to homeschool their kids was the goal. We prefer to pick on Democrats, lower hanging fruit and all that, but our rhetorical woodshed doesn't discriminate. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
Would you rather spend time with family and friends in the pool or at the barbecue rather than landscaping your yard? Well, Augusta Lawn Care is here to help you with all of your landscaping needs. Proudly serving southern New Hampshire, we handle everything. Weekly mowing, spring and fall cleanups, bush trimming, mulch installs, lawn treatments, aeration, dethatching, and even snow plowing and salting when the dreaded winter hits. Call Augusta Lawn Care today and let your yard be the best looking yard on the block. Call 603-331-4768. Augusta Lawn Care, locally owned, professionally done. Call 603-331-4678 or visit us online at augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry. That's augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry.
United We Stand, A Marine's Fight. Written by Julian Aiello. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aiello. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.
There's Julian drinking his prune juice again.
This episode is unofficially brought to you by Cafe Bustelo Espresso, the unsweetened version, because you know what? It's better than cocaine, people.
Hold that up for a second, though. You have to admit, that does look like prune juice.
Oh, yes, it does.
And every time I see that bottle, I think of prune juice.
But you know what? It's better than cocaine.
Well, I mean, so where's my iced cold brew with no ice.
But here's the problem, is the worst thing about coffee is all the shit we add to it.
Well, I just put protein shake in there. So it's a protein mocha. It's very
I
good.
got addicted to black coffee. So after I came
That's racist, yo.
back from Iraq, well, you had the little packets in your MREs and shit, and you make the black coffee. But over there, the Iraqis had chai tea, and chai, and their coffees were fantastic. Come back from Iraq, and none of the coffee in the United States tasted the same. The beans suck. The Dunk's coffee sucks. Starbucks coffee sucks and comes with a dose of condescension and friggin' bitterness from some frickin' hippie with a scarf and a man bun. So I got addicted to black coffee. I could pour this shit in my house and I could drink it all day, and it keeps me alive. Caffeine and nicotine is what keeps Marines going.
I got. Oh boy! So we got two Marines in the room here. So, and I'm not one of them. So evidently, I'm outnumbered here. I'm just going to say this, and I suspect that Burner is the same way. I like a cup of coffee that tries to steal my wallet. That's what I want.
I've had great cups of coffee that are extremely expensive, and I've had great cups of coffee that are super cheap.
All right, how do you like your coffee there, Colonel?
Hey, how you doing? You know what's funny is I'm not as much as a coffee drinker as one might think. I'm more of a Diet Coke energy drink kind of guy.
Diet Coke energy. Okay,
no.
all right. So you're an aspartame junkie.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's right. All day long.
All right, Marine Corps Colonel William Burner Dunn, military attack helicopter pilot, president of Strategic Resilience Group, and author of Gunfighters Rule. Wanted to get you on the program here to talk about these ceasefires. Whenever there's a ceasefire, there's a skirmish, okay? Whatever, you got Iran and Israel, and then there's a skirmish, and then there's a ceasefire, and people are like, oh, look at this. This is due entirely to the skillful diplomacy that's executed by all of these politicians and these foreign policy specialists here. But you see it a little bit differently. You see these ceasefires as perhaps an opportunity for these different groups to go back to fine-tune their attack strategies and to come back swinging twice as hard. Or am I misunderstanding you?
No, that's exactly right. And the reality is this, a ceasefire is not a truce. Okay, a ceasefire is usually when an action takes place between one or two adversaries, right? And sometimes there could be three or four partaking in an event, but typically we'll just go with two. So you got two adversaries out there, one's trying to get the advantage of the other, and sometimes the ceasefire is because one is now at a disadvantage and they're waiting, they're trying to buy time, whether they're trying to buy time to bring in weapons, reinforcements, or it's possible they're just getting their butt kicked and they need to stop so that they don't lose. We put too much, I guess, effort and belief when you see something go down as a ceasefire that the war ends. And, we've seen over history, time and time again, that's not the case, especially, in the Middle East.
So this is more of just a headline to grab the news and to pump up the accolades of the administration. That's what you're saying, correct?
Well, it's better than continuous fighting, if that makes sense. So
step in the right direction?
It's a step in the right direction. It can be. And so when you have a truce that also gives time for the third party, in this case, in many instances, the United States, to come in there and sort of offer, whether it's sticks or carrots, to one or both sides to prevent this flare-up from coming again. Now, if you look at Gaza right now. How many ceasefires have we had? I can't even count them. I can't even count them since October 7th, since the hostilities began. We've had several, and they're still blowing each other up, and the fight goes on. I think we will see that. We have the 8th of August coming up very soon. We're supposed to see some action in the Russia-Ukraine war. We'll see how that plays out. But I think pushing to the ceasefire is the right direction. The problem is we just cannot get fooled into assuming that it's an actual truce. Until it's an actual truce and it bears the test of time, then I look at it with a jaundiced eye, expecting one of the players to take advantage of this time off, if you will, and then react in a negative way.
I think that's a very reasonable and measured approach. You mentioned something in what I'm reading here about the different phases of a ceasefire. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, yeah, ideally, when you get to the final phase, you transition, the military transitions everything over to government control, whether that's the government of the U.S. or ideally it's the adversary government. The problem is when you look at some places, like look at what happened in Baghdad, Iraq after OIF won. We really couldn't turn it over. There was no government. So we ended up being there for 20 years. And, I still have people that are in Iraq today supporting our brothers and sisters in combat and in different ways. And they are in harm's way. But the reality becomes when you turn over to a civilian authority, you have to have a legitimate civilian authority.
Yeah.
If you don't have a legitimate civilian authority, what you're going to have is chaos, humanitarian crisis. And, a lot of people ask me, do you think we should have done a regime change in Iran? And my answer was no, absolutely not. Let the Iranians do a regime change, because if there is a regime change and you get a incapable government in there, then you're going to have a massive humanitarian crisis, and we don't want to get involved in Iran.
You mean worse than what it already is? I mean, you've got the Ayatollah who, by all reports, and you've got intelligence sources that are saying this guy spends half of his time stoned and the other half sleeping. So, I mean, it's more of a failed state. Would you agree that the Islamic Republic of Iran right now is the equivalent of it? It's not even a third world country; it's a fourth world failed state.
I don't think it's at the failed state level yet. When there's a failed state, the next step usually is going to be a vacuum persists, and then you're going to have other entities come in. This is what we're going to see in Syria, I'm sure. We've seen this in Afghanistan. What will happen is you will open up a vacuum of power where they cannot protect themselves, if you will, and then a terrorist organization could come in, run rampant over there, and then the government, whatever government is, cannot go in and stop them. And that vacuum is what you always want to prevent. And then on the humanitarian side, at least right now, and I've never been to Iran, but I have a very close personal friend that family is from Iran, and she said it's terrible over there. But the reality becomes they're not starving to death right now. Does that make sense? They're not starving to death. They're not having a Gaza humanitarian crisis in Iran, and I think we want to prevent that. Not only because we want the Iranian people to embrace the West, if you will, and get rid of their regime, but they need to do that on their own time.
So let's relate this, because you and I both served in Iraq. Let's relate this to Iraq. Do you think that we should have deposed Saddam, or that by deposing him it left a vacuum in the region, and we get exactly what you just said, is a government that was ineffective, leading to the resurgence of ISIS and second rise of the caliphate?
Well, yes and no. Okay, and I talk about this in Gunfighters Rule quite a bit. We went into Iraq in OIF-1. Getting rid of Saddam was the right call. The problem is then we were directed to fire the interim government. So I shifted out of being a forward air controller in OIF-1 to being running the Civil Military Operations Center in Karbala. And one day I got a direct order from my battalion commander, and he didn't want to give it. But he said, hey, Burner, we got to go fire the temporary government of Karbala. And we have been working with these men and women, I guess there wasn't no women there, but we have been working with these men, and they were smart people. They knew how to govern. And we've been working with them very cohesively. And then we had to come in one day and say, you're all fired. We fired them. We fired the military. And then what you had is that became the power vacuum, because you had no one governing. And then you have, thousands upon thousands of young men with nothing to do. And then you have ISIS, Al-Qaeda Iraq come in and say, hey, let's go fight these Americans. And the young men had nothing better to do. They believe in the martyrdom system. And next thing you know, we're doing a 20-year fight. And I believe this. I think every Lance Corporal that was in Iraq during OIF-1 knew it was not a good idea to fire the government and fire the military. But, we had to do that because our ambassador ordered us to do it, and we did it.
So,
and that's what started our 20-year war.
What do you think led to that? Are you privy to what decision led to the decision to get rid of the government of Karbala? Why? What was the motivation for that? How did they not see how the chips were going to fall? Was it a lapse of understanding of the culture of the region? Was it bad information from the military-industrial complex? Was it bad intel? What was it?
It was a bad political decision.
Okay.
They tied what I believe You've heard the term denazification
Yes.
from World War II, right?
Mm-hmm.
They tied that to Ba'athist. What people did not understand is everyone that was, if you will, educated in Iraq at the time was a Ba'athist.
Yep.
And so we did de-Baathification. And so what you did is you took your educated level. If they do have a caste system. I haven't been back to Iraq in a few years, but they had a caste system very clearly. You had kind of the peasant class, the middle educated class, then you had the Ba'athist class. And we fired everybody that was a Ba'athist because in my mind, they equated it to the denazification. Now, I don't know. No one's ever specifically told me that was the decision and the reason, but that's what I personally believe. And then you had nobody running anything. And one of the things we did is we would hire Iraqis. And this is what I want people to pull out of this. We would hire Iraqis to pick up trash because we had all this money to give. The problem is they didn't understand what money was. And they had dinar, but they didn't understand what a US dollar was. And so at one point, I received about $500,000 in $20 bills. And so we would pay $20 bills out to a group of Iraqis to clean trash, which they didn't know why we wanted us to clean trash, because the way they operated is they put their trash in the middle of their city where we were in their little towns, and the goats ate that. And that became how they ran their process. And then they would eat the goats when it came time, or milk them or whatever. So we give out these $20 bills. They don't know what a $20 bill is. And so they were literally tearing them in strips. So I gave, one guy had a $20 bill. He teared it in like 5 strips to share that money with his buddies. And so we realized is that we were looking at this in a Western lens. And, they did have Iraqi dinar, but they did not know the difference between a dinar and how you operate a dinar with the US dollar. And they literally thought you could share the money by breaking it in pieces.
Isn't that the major failure of foreign policy in general, is a lack of understanding of the culture that we're dealing with? We tend to look at these cultures and look at their cultures through an American lens rather than looking at their cultures from how they view their society?
100%. 100%. And I was in Karbala one day with 2 of my Marines. And matter of fact, I'm down in Tampa at a conference, and I just saw one of them today. And we're in a meeting. And unbeknownst to me, I did not know this. I did not have a cultural advisor with me at the time. We use cultural advisors now. Mm-hmm. But one of my Marines was chewing gum. Mm. You know the MRE gum, right?
Yeah.
It's there to freshen your breath. So he's chewing gum in this meeting. I didn't even notice it. And next thing you know, everybody's screaming. I mean, literally, there's 3 Marines and 20 Iraqis, and everybody's screaming. So I looked at my two Marines. We pulled our 9 mils out, set them on our lap, getting ready to fight our way out of this thing. And I'm like, what is going on? And I have an interpreter there, Mr. Sally, and he says, your guy's chewing gum. And I was like, so? He goes, oh, that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
So we had to get out of that. I told the Marine, I said, hey, don't stop chewing gum right now. But when nobody's looking, just swallow it. Because I didn't want to show weakness. You know what I mean? I didn't want to show weakness because this was right after OIF 1. The bullets were still flying a little bit. I didn't want to show any weakness. So we sat there. We calmed it all down. The interim governor kicked everybody out of the office but the 3 Marines and him and one other person. A few days later, we never saw that man again. Just gone.
Damn.
They said he had taken ill. Now, I don't know if he was really ill, but I don't know if they whacked him out or what. But all I know is we didn't see him again.
I honestly, I can't disagree with your analysis of the Ba'athist issue. That was one of the issues I brought up. I was later in Iraq when we already had the cultural immersion classes and stuff. So when we went over there, we had an idea of how the culture operated, and I took it on myself to study the culture, so I knew that I was not going to create an issue. However, when it came to the Ba'athist issue, I studied the culture, and I knew the different caste systems. I knew what we were dealing with, and I couldn't wrap my head around why we got ourselves into this predicament of an endless war over something that could have been very easily avoided. And I see the same. I saw the same thing transpire in Afghanistan. I see it likely to transpire in Iran coming up soon.
Yeah, well, I concur. I wrote a paper once when I was in command and staff about termination, about conflict termination. It's the hardest thing. Nobody ever wants to put a timeline on it. And I don't know if you remember this, but so we do OIF 1. I come back from OIF 1, then I'm working at the Pentagon. And my task was to plan the aviation for Iraq and Afghanistan. So what I did is I drew up a 5-year plan. And only because I had a 10-year, I literally had a 10-year, all on a spreadsheet. I had 10 years, but I really focused on the first 5 years, and then I kind of penciled in the next 5 years. In our commandant and some of the other Marines I was working with at the time, he says, "Well, why'd you plan out so far?" And I said, "Well, because, sir, I think this is going to take forever." And the PP&O general, who became our commandant later, he was like, "Yeah, this is a 10-year fight." Mm-hmm. But the political realm that was coming down to our most senior leaders, they were telling him, "You're going to be out in 10 months."
Yeah.
And so I set up do you remember the 10-month deal?
Yep.
I don't know if you're privy to that, but they said we're going to be out in 10 months. So I set up an aviation platform that was going to deploy to Iraq, and I included Harriers. Mm-hmm. And then one of the commanders, the ground commander, scratched him off, and he says, "Well, why'd you put Harriers on that burner?" And I said, "Look, it's a long fight, sir. You're going to need these Harriers. We're going to be using these Harriers, believe it or not, for armed reconnaissance, because all the aviators know how we do this, right?" And he said, "No, we're going to be out in 10 months. We're not going to need them." So he literally scraped them off the list. I go back to my boss, and I said, "They don't want them." And I said, "But we'll have them ready to deploy." And 90 days later, the entire squadron plus another squadron deployed. And of course, the rest is history. And it wasn't that we were smarter I'm not implying that the aviation side was smarter than the ground side, because all my Marine buddies will shoot me, right? What I'm saying is, with aviation logistics, we have to plan out further because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's just a hard process. So we have to do it, right or wrong. We have to do it. And it turns out, we spent 20 years, and the reality is we still have people in the Middle East. We still have people in Iraq. And the last administration let, by my count, somewhere between 250 and 300 attacks take place on U.S. troops and did nothing. So since then, we've had 2 or 3, and action was taken. And so that's where we need to be.
So one of the main issues with our foreign policy abroad is the lack of consistency in U.S. posture when we deal with our foreign adversaries between administration and administration, and even within administrations. There's almost zero consistency. One of the things you brought up that I'm looking right here is how America's retreat from global leadership could invite aggression. Are we not engaged in global leadership, or are we only engaged at a tacit level? Because it seems like Trump is trying to be engaged, but stepping away from many of the international organizations that have been a part of this process.
Well, that's a great question. So we are engaged. The thing that you have to do is engagement is a policy decision. Yeah. Engage, and then you have to have presence. For instance, I was a MU commander, a Marine Expeditionary Unit commander, but as I get ready to retire from the Marine Corps, we used to have a 2.0 MU presence. There was a MU everywhere, all the time. Now, I don't even want to say on the air how small our MU presence is, but when our MUs deploy, they're ready to go fight anywhere, anytime, any place, and they've proven over and over again they can do that. But we've had to back off due to some of the Navy shipping issues, and what we need to do, this is my recommendation, is if you can't send a Navy ship with Marines on it, then send the Marines. Send them somewhere, put them on a dirt debt, get them in place so that they're engaging. The last time I was in Djibouti, which, I don't know if you've ever been to Djibouti, but I love Djibouti. The last time I was there, I saw more Chinese military training than I had ever seen in my 33 years in the Marine Corps. And I've been in and out of Djibouti, many times. But there were Chinese people training, doing what would look like a Marine Corps deployment, but it was China. So that's your engagement piece. We have got to prevent a vacuum in an ally or a vacuum in what I consider a logistically important location, a warm water port. If there's a warm water port, you better have some U.S. military persons working with that host nation in engaging them routinely. If it is a place that has a strategic importance, you better have military personnel training routinely. What we don't want to do is throw money away for no reason. And you guys have seen and heard about all these Doge cuts. Some of them I think have been amazingly important. Others, you can argue, did we give away some of that engagement money? Maybe we did. But we have to engage, and I think it's better to engage with human beings than it is just to pour money on the situation.
I can't say I disagree. One of the questions I want to ask you is, what do you see as the main differences between the U.S.'s posture internationally, especially dealing in the Middle East, between the last administration and this administration? Do you see Trump and Pete Hegseth making marketable returns, bringing tangibles to the table in regards to the Middle East, or do you see making the same mistakes over and over again, expecting a different result?
Well, I think Iran tells us the story, period. We took out an Iranian nuclear capability that we had promised our country and we had promised the world we would never let happen. That would have never happened and did never happen under the previous administration. What I would tell you is that previous administrations, I was deployed once as the MAG 40 CO, and I deployed to set the theater in the Middle East for then a gentleman named General Mattis. So we deployed over there to prepare for what I consider a very similar mission that it has just taken place. So this theory of we're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon is decades old. It's not months old. We've been planning for it. We've expected Israel to take action. I have a calendar that I left. It's in my office right now that I put on there. There was a specific date and time that I thought they were going to go, and this was all the way back in 2012. And I put a little marker. I said, war begins. And I still have that sitting in my office in Stafford, Virginia, just outside Quantico. It's still sitting there. And I leave it there as a reminder on how fragile peace is and how important it is that we have got to maintain a strength posture, because in the Middle East and in, I would say, the continent of Africa, there are individuals and they only understand and know strength. And that's it. They live by strength and they die by strength. But if they see a weakness, they will use that against you.
Strength and respect is the language of the Middle East. I do want to ask you, because we only got about a minute, about 60 seconds left. I want to give you a chance to explain what drove you to write your book. What was the message you wanted to get across to the audience, to the average reader, and give a chance to tell everybody where they can find it, where they can support you, where they can follow your work.
Okay, well, thank you. So, Gunfighters Rule, I was the squadron commander of the Gunfighters, HMLA 369, out of Camp Pendleton, California. I took 334 Marines and sailors and a whole bunch of aircraft into Iraq, and we took the fight to the enemy for 7 months. I brought everybody home. But I also talk about from when I was a young lad. My dad died when I was very young. Our house burnt down, and I had to fight a bunch of personal tragedies, and I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17. So this book talks about that. It talks about Parris Island. It talks about being a forward air controller. It talks about some of my time as instructors, and then mainly it talks about fighting. If you want to read this book, it will teach you about resilience and determination. And then if you're a military buddy, Bubba, boy or girl, it's going to stress you out. One of my buddies just read it and said it brought back a lot of pain for him, because it talks a lot about combat and fighting. My website is colonelwilliamdunn.com, and then you can get this book anywhere you buy books. You can get it on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and I think you'll really enjoy it if you get a chance to get a copy.
All right. Thank you. I want to thank you for coming on. That was absolutely fantastic, and I appreciate your insights. I hope you'll come in again soon, because I'm sure that this is going to be something that's going to be coming up quite a few. I
just enjoyed the conversation. I mean, that's why I'm just like, hey, you guys have at it here. This is good stuff. So, no, Colonel, thank you so much for jumping on the program. Certainly appreciate it, and we will definitely get you back. We'll also get information about your book up on the show notes.
All right, and then Semper Fi, brother. We need to. I'm sure we chewed up some dirt somewhere.
Oh, most definitely. Maybe we'll get some cigars if I make it down to D.C.
Hoorah! Well, gents, you have a great night.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for
God
having
bless. Godspeed. All right, we're going to take a very, very quick commercial break. Don't forget, the phone lines are open. Hold on. Don't get excited with that bump music just quite yet. All right, there we go. 833-603-8255 if you'd like to be a part of the program. Again, 833-603-8255. That's TALK, T-A-L-K. Much more of Granite State Live coming up right after this. We're going to be talking about tariffs and then how that impacts your wallet. Don't go away.
New Hampshire Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte has been making a lot of noise about how she's funding education. The Republican budget she just signed provides more money for education than ever before. She even bragged the other day that New Hampshire is top 10 in the country when it comes to funding our children's education, as if giving money to school systems has anything to do with learning. If you look at the math, and if you got schooled in New Hampshire, the odds are good it's not your best subject. It's the exact opposite. The more money we throw at schools, the less kids learn. We're committed to wasting money on an experiment that failed, unless wasting money to drive parents to homeschool their kids was the goal. We prefer to pick on Democrats, lower hanging fruit and all that, but our rhetorical woodshed doesn't discriminate. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
Would you rather spend time with family and friends in the pool or at the barbecue rather than landscaping your yard? Well, Augusta Lawn Care is here to help you with all of your landscaping needs. Proudly serving southern New Hampshire, we handle everything. Weekly mowing, spring and fall cleanups, bush trimming, mulch installs, lawn treatments, aeration, dethatching, and even snow plowing and salting when the dreaded winter hits. Call Augusta Lawn Care today and let your yard be the best looking yard on the block. Call 603-331-4768. Augusta Lawn Care, locally owned, professionally done. Call 603-331-4678 or visit us online at augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry. That's augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry.
United We Stand, A Marine's Fight. Written by Julian Aiello. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aiello. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.
Welcome back to Granite State Live on this Tuesday, the 5th day of August 2025. It is absolutely frightening how quickly this summer has gone by. We're already 5 days into August. Where the hell did it go?
Dude, by the end of the month, kids are going to be back in school. It's going to be buying school supplies and school clothes all over again. I'm not ready for it.
Dude, they're already doing pumpkin stuff.
Yeah, I'm seeing
Pumpkins.
I'm seeing
pumpkins.
Halloweens.
That's October.
I'm seeing Halloween stuff in Walmart and shit.
And now what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing all the women in the Han Solo outfits. You know what that is? The blue jeans with the knee-high boots.
Yeah.
And they all look like Han Solo. Where the hell did this trend come from?
Pumpkin spice lattes
and pumpkin spice. Everything is pumpkin spice. Pumpkin spice this and pumpkin spice that. And
so we used to walk through the mall when we do the school shopping or whatever, and we'd see the Auntie Anne's. They have their pumpkin spice like donut holes or whatever. I call them basic bitch nuggets.
I was down in Georgia 2 weeks ago, and normally I avoid these things like the plague, but there was a tray of the little, not the big full size, guilt generators, the tiny little Krispy Kremes. Dear God, those things. You want to talk about? Well, not bitch nuggets, but crack nuggets.
Those are dangerous.
Those are.
They deceptively. You can eat them quickly, and before you know it, you've eaten more than if you had just had a regular Krispy Kreme sitting there, and you're going, I didn't eat that much. 5, 10, 15 later, and you're going, shit, I just had 4 freaking Krispy Kreme donuts.
Yeah. You know what's worse than Krispy Kreme? And I don't eat these, and I don't eat Krispy Kremes at all. Actually, that's the first. And this is, again, it's the tiny one. It's the size of a munchkin, basically. But I had one of those. But I've spent a lot of time in the past month or so in airports. It's just a disproportionate. Thank God, by the way, for airport lounges. I got to tell you, I got a facial at the Chase Sapphire Lounge. That's going to wind up becoming a clip. Don't put that out. No, it's great. You get a massage and a facial for free, and there's free booze and there's free. It is absolutely the only way to fly is with airport lounges. But I'm walking through the airport and I smell the Cinnabon.
Ooh.
Now, the Cinnabon is an interesting phenomenon in American culture because you see people looking wistfully at these. They're not little. They're big.
Massive.
And you see people eating these things. They go up to the counter. They're more than happy to hand over their money. And then they get their Cinnabon and they go and they sit down. And then it's the transition from the anticipation to the fat-induced rapture followed by the shame and guilt and disgrace as they bring their tray back and they throw their little packaging out and they walk away from there looking like, what the hell did I just do? It's like watching an alcoholic who just fell off the wagon after 20 years of sobriety. The shame, the disgrace, the just the self-loathing that comes with eating a Cinnabon.
Right after I got off,
fascinating to watch.
We lived in Temecula, California, just north of base, and there was this Mexican pastry shop right across, this Mexican bakery, a great family, and their thing was, we have a Cinnabon twice as big as Cinnabon. And you walk in, and it's like this, and it's slathered in icing. And I ate one once, and I was like, this is the worst sugar headache I have ever had. I feel horrible for eating this. I need to go work out 5 times just to get rid of this.
Now, and talking, so if I were to say to you, the Cinnabon is how Slippin' Jimmy gained the confidence of the security guard, would you know what I'm referencing?
No.
Better Call Saul.
I've never watched that.
Oh, you got to watch that movie. Or that series. Fantastic.
Never watched
Fantastic.
it. I like Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, all those series. I never watched them.
Yeah. I think the Better Call Saul.
I grew up around a lot of in Dayton, Ohio. I saw a lot of crack dealers, drug dealers, and shit like that. It just, when I saw a lot of those shows, I was like, this isn't shit I want to fucking relive.
Yeah. Now, I got to say, Breaking Bad was a pretty good series, but the Better Call Saul, as a spinoff, was better than, I think, the Breaking Bad series.
I've heard great things.
Yeah. No, you definitely check it out. If you're in the mood to binge something, binge a Cinnabon, and then just, as you're trying to get out of your Barco Lounger, just pop on a couple of episodes of Better Call Saul. So It's a good series. All right, so we opened the show up with this, and again, for the past month, I really have not been paying attention to what's going on. And I got to be honest with you, it's been a blissful vacation from just the flotsam and jetsam that is the cesspool of social media and opinion-based everything.
The jeans. I'm not going to stop you. But just so we're clear, this is not me telling you to buy American Eagle jeans.
Sydney Sweeney, Hasbro jeans.
You see what I did there, right?
So now this is, everybody's got their knickers in a wad over the Sydney Sweeney thing. What is the big deal? Explain to me how this is racist.
It's not. The left has run out of things to be offended by, so they have to manufacture offense. And this is how you know that they've completely lost a plot, because even people on the left are going, you guys went too far with this. This was an innocuous ad that ran on a double entendre. Obviously, Sydney Sweeney is a good-looking chick. She has objectively good genes. Good-looking people objectively had good genes. And there was a guy online who tried to tell me, since when has being attractive been a marker of good genetics? I was like, since forever. Having a symmetrical face, having a good height, having a good metabolism, good body, bone structure, stuff like that suggests a level of good breeding. That is, and I'm sitting here going, Beyonce did the same type of friggin' ad years back. Beyonce objectively has good genes. She's beautiful. Halle Berry has good genes. Salma Hayek has good genes. Sofia Vergara has good genes. Margot Robbie has good genes. Monica Bellucci has good genes. I'm sitting here going, anybody who makes this racist is retarded. It's retarded, because nobody is sitting there. Every guy watched that ad and goes, yeah, she's got some damn good genes.
Well, how many times when people look at attractive children, they say, wow, I mean, that's the result of good genes, of good genetics. It's like the old joke about when a supermodel and a nerd, they get married and they wind up having children, and somebody's like, God, that's going to be, it's going to be amazing, because, they're going to have the looks of the mom and the intelligence of the father until they invert it, and then they have an ugly dummy. So, where's my drum roll? Where's my drum roll? Okay, let me do that again. Then they have an ugly dummy.
And silence. But you know what?
Do you have production experience? Give us a call at 833-603-8255. We may have an opening soon.
My kids are absolutely beautiful. My wife is gorgeous. She has green eyes, blonde hair. She's 5'9". I'm 6 feet, brown skin. My kids got they got the looks from both sides. They got the intelligence from both sides. My kids have the perfect blend of genetics from both of us. All three of them are absolutely beautiful. And everybody constantly is like, God, you guys make beautiful kids. And I was like, thank you. I sure hope so. It would really suck if people were like, God, your kids are busted.
Well, I mean, how many people would actually say that to somebody? Because everybody goes up and goes, oh, wow, look what a cute little baby you have. Nobody goes up and goes, my God, what a fugly larva you produced.
You know how you know when your kids aren't good looking? Nobody says shit.
Okay. I don't have kids,
I've seen kids with
you
massive foreheads. I've seen kids with beady eyes where they look like they're staring through your soul. I've seen kids that are ugly as shit, and everyone just goes, oh, that's nice.
So I'm not gonna put this.
It's kind of like when girls go, I know he doesn't look the best, but he's got a great personality.
All right. So I'm not gonna put this up, and I'm gonna ask the producer not to hone in on this. But this is something that I encountered when I was in Georgia. Okay.
Thoughts Lord, on that? What the hell is that?
Okay, I just want to make sure it's not on camera.
That looks like, oh my God, they look like villains.
Well, yeah, but that's, I mean, they're relations, and I would imagine that they're probably relations.
They look like villains, or like, they look like Scarecrow from Batman. They look like a villain from a cartoon. Mm-hmm. Like Dastardly Deeds from Wacky Racers.
I'll show you a picture. You know who Pablo Escobar is?
Yes.
Okay. And you know who Ron Jeremy is?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you a picture of an individual that I met in Georgia.
Who looks like
if
both?
Ron Jeremy and Pablo Escobar had a love child, I met this product.
Wow. That is a weird mix.
It was nicest guy in the world, too. But, man, it's like, I actually said, I'm like, dude, I got to take a picture of you because you look like Pablo Escobar. And he goes, I get that a lot. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting. But going back to this Sydney Sweeney thing, I heard about this and I saw this, and it's like, at least it's not the Hawk Tuah chick.
Yes.
Okay, could be worse because it could be that rocket scientist. But I mean, again, you've heard the expression before. If everything is racist, then nothing is racist.
You know what? American Eagle has doubled down and gone, you know what? They released a statement saying, we have catered to a very small, loud, obnoxious population over the past 10 years, and we're not doing it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing it anymore. America likes beautiful people, and beautiful people sell clothing. Fat, ugly chicks don't sell shit. And you know what? The reality is that what I'm seeing from I'm not seeing a single guy say the friggin' ad was racist. Not one. I haven't seen a single one yet. And all the people who are saying the ad was racist or just some racist dog whistle or some shit like that are ugly, busted, or
500-pound wildebeests that are, that's racist because, no, it's racist because nobody wants to look at your fat ass and your camel toe in a pair of jeans, or in their particular instance, a moose knuckle.
Yeah, the fastest people on the planet to tear down a good-looking woman are other women.
Unless, and of course, and this is where the celebration of body diversity comes in. Mm-hmm. Well, fat people are beautiful too. No, it's, again, that's the result of good genes, right? I mean, people want to see people that are attractive. Now,
and if you think I'm joking, you think I'm not consistent, I posted it online. I posted the exact same thing I just said here. I listed a whole bunch of actresses of all different races about how they could have sold the exact same pair of jeans to the exact same ad, and my response would be exactly the same. It's really simple. I don't understand why. Well, I understand the idiocy, the griftery, the industry of outrage and rage baiting, and people need to find something to be offended by. Like we were discussing at the beginning of the podcast. Mm-hmm. I understand where it comes from, and at the same time, I'm like, you people need to go into a corner, and you need to be put at the proverbial children's table when it comes to national dialogue, because you're obviously not saying anything intelligent or worth responding to or listening to. But because this continues to be something that they harp on and continues, one side mentions it, now the other side has to retort. Now it's this endless cycle. We have to keep talking about it because for some reason people still have to be offended that some chick put on a pair of jeans and did what women in Hollywood have been doing for decades, which is looking good and selling shit.
I was going to say like eating and then vomiting. No, but this is something that I think originated, and I mean, this is the fact that this has been originating, or did originate, during the Obama administration. This is a perfect example of, rather than holding people to a higher standard and saying, this is the height to which you should reach. Mm-hmm. This is where you should strive to be. Endeavor to reach these heights. It's now we're going to take what we conceive as the pinnacle and we're going to lower that down, and we're going to make that easier to achieve by the underachievers. Mm-hmm. And so it's not, okay, well, listen, there's two ways that you can, I mean, does society have an unrealistic
standard of beauty?
Standard of beauty.
I'd say
no,
yes.
I don't. I would disagree with that.
No, I would say the average person doesn't. I would say the average person doesn't. But you're seeing, again, I'm going to talk about social media use. The overuse of social media, the average woman, it used to be back in the day, women who constantly read fitness magazines, Vogue, Cosmopolitan, or whatever, Sweet 16 or whatever it was.
You know all of the teeny popper mags, don't you?
I have sisters, lots of them. So that's good. The women who used to read all those magazines used to have this hyper, I need to be skinny, I need to have big boobs, I need to look like that chick who doesn't eat, who has perfect genetics. Because the reality is these women are measuring themselves against the pinnacle of women in society who are legitimate 10s out of 10s. The women who are such genetic perfection, they get hired to sell other women products that they don't even need and don't even use. Mm-hmm. Those women, the average woman who reads constantly is absorbing that information, wants to be that woman. They want to compete with that woman. They want to be on that level. So they're judging themselves. They look in the mirror and they hate themselves and they hate parts of their body. And now that same body dysmorphia has been amplified by social media, where you're constantly logging online to see these influencers with BBLs, plastic surgery out the wazoo, big boobs and all that. So the shape the average woman is trying to reach has changed dramatically, especially with the popularization of big butts, hip hop, and stuff like that. But the body dysmorphia has increased exponentially, because if you click on one of those pictures to opine about how horrible you feel about your body, just once, your entire feed becomes all of these women.
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up in this endless spiral of, I'm not beautiful enough. I need to wear more makeup. I need to alter my body.
Well, that's how we sell you things. We tell you that you're less of a person. We tell you that you're ugly. We tell you that you're too fat. We tell you that you're too, and you know what? There are some people that are too fat.
Yes.
You want to see this? Go to your local average Walmart and watch what people are buying for food, and I'll put that in air fingers quote, with their damn WIC cards.
I think the body
when your child at
movement,
12 or 13 years old is 300 pounds, you should have your children taken away from you.
So this is where
that's child abuse.
This is where the abuse of the body positivity movement has gone, right? Because it used to be you should feel comfortable looking in the mirror and being in your own skin.
Mm-hmm.
You should feel comfortable not having to put on makeup with a trowel. You should feel comfortable not feeling less than, because you're not born looking like Cameron Diaz when she auditioned for The Mask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's fine. But the issue is now it's transformed into this, you should be proud that you're fat, out of shape, you're disgusting, you can't fit into clothes, and you should display your fat, disgusting body all over the internet for everyone to see. And anyone who doesn't agree with you, like you, want to sleep with you is a bigot.
You know what's interesting, and this is kind of funny. Have you ever seen Janice from the Muppet Show? She was part of Dr. Tooth's Electric Mayhem band.
Yeah.
Okay, so she had the big lips and the big. I'm just looking at a picture of this right now. One, I don't know if you can actually zoom in on my screen or not. I don't know if you can actually see this or not because it's on my laptop. But what I would encourage people to do is just go onto Google, do a Google images search for Janice Muppet, because Jim Henson was actually giving us a glimpse into what the future would look like. It's the Botox face. It's the massive lips. It's the Kimberly Guilfoyle look, which I don't know about you, but people think that's beautiful.
I don't.
I think it's disgusting.
I don't. I think the beauty of the female body is in its imperfections. It's subtle details that make you different from everyone else, that make you you. Mm-hmm. When everybody is trying to achieve the exact same look, none of you are unique anymore. Mm-hmm. The blown up lips. Yes, are there some women who have very, very thin lips, and having more voluptuous lips might fit their face? Sure. But the problem is going out of the ordinary to where your lips are no longer proportional. So proportionality is the name of the game. If you were born with literally a bird chest and you can't even fill out an A cup, I don't begrudge you going and getting breast implants so you can have some boobs. The issue is when your boobs are so big that it looks like you're about to fall over, and your boobs enter the door 5 minutes before you do. All of a sudden, especially if you have all boobs and flat ass, or such a fat ass and no boobs, now you look unproportional. It doesn't look right anymore. Mm-hmm. And even to the male eye, we're looking at it. Even black guys are sitting there going, some of this shit you guys are doing, that's going way too far.
So what is it about the Sydney Sweeney ad that's now it's a double entendre? Yes. Sydney Sweeney has good genes. Mm-hmm. Okay, we would agree. She is clearly, she has good genes.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
Well, she has good genes in the context of her genetics. The combination of maternal and paternal genetics have created a human that to the average person says, this is attractive, this is desirable, this is very pretty. Proportion is there, hair color is there, eyes are there, so on and so forth. So that's, we understand that. And we understand that that's a double entendre. She has good genes, American Eagle, she has good genes in the context of genetics. What is this? And it doesn't just stop at racism. It's the allegation of Nazism.
It's because anything that promotes the idea of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman in any facet, the left ties to Nazism. You see them, they use it the same way they use the phrase racism. They apply it to everything out of context, and it doesn't match 90% of the stuff they apply it to. They're not applying it to National Socialists. They're not applying it to policies that Hitler would have imposed. They only apply it to things that promote some sort of heteronormative white society. And the reason why Dr. Karlin Borchenko, we had her on, every tie to race, sex, ethnicity, all that stuff are just vehicles to accomplish Marxism, to accomplish communism. They use it in lieu of class warfare, and their association with white people is with capitalism. Therefore, you attack white people, you attack capitalism. And most of the women that you see flipping out are Marxists. They're radical Marxists, radical feminist Marxists. They're ugly. They grow out their freaking armpit hair, their leg hair. They have mustaches and purple hair. They're just, I don't take these people seriously to the degree that, I mean, at least to the, I take them seriously to the degree that they're a detriment to society. The idea that we should make Marxism our
well, and that ties in with what we were talking about earlier. Instead of saying to people, "Hey, listen, maybe you should take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you should eat properly. Put down the Big Macs and put down the 2-liter bottle of Cokes and actually, diet and exercise and watch what you're eating and take care of yourself." It's no. We have to force society to see us as beautiful. We don't want to put the hard work in, and that is your typical Marxist right there. Underachieving losers who don't want to do anything. That's Bernie Sanders.
I say the same thing when it comes to the trans shit. You cannot force society to be attracted to you or want to sleep with you. You should not shame somebody for what they're attracted to. Contrary to this whole body positivity movement, there are objective beauty standards. Having a symmetrical face, having almond-shaped eyes, having certain eye colors. And I don't even mean that blue eyes, green eyes, gray eyes are necessarily more attractive or more desirable, but they are rarer, and because they are rarer, they are valued. Anything that is rare is valued. Period. Whether it's diamonds, whether it's gold, silver, platinum, palladium, it doesn't matter. If it's a scarcity, it is valued in society as a whole. I've seen beautiful.
All right, so we have another. Is it Sydney Sweeney? So it's another Sydney Sweeney video. Let's go ahead and let's throw that up real quick.
Back this for your first day.
Hey, eyes up here.
That's hot.
Wow.
9:21.
Oh my god, girl! Was it your first
good.
time? That was really good.
That is hot.
Nuts.
That's hot. People are flipping out because they just found out she's also a registered Republican, so they're doubling down on the whole Nazi thing. Because, of course, all Republicans must be Nazis. I was like,
"Oh, aren't we?"
Apparently, Frederick Douglass was a Nazi. Booker T. Washington was a Nazi.
The radical Republicans that passed the Anti-KKK Act of 1871, which included, black Republicans.
Yeah.
They must have been Nazis too. It's proof positive that no matter what it is that comes out of the left, that it's a twisted, projected confession. We've said this before. It's the Democrats and I mean today now it's the Democrats have become. It used to be that you had leftists and then you had Democrats, and you could be a Democrat and not be a leftist. Today, the Democrats have gone so far off the reservation that I think it's a fair statement to lump them all together. You have the ignorant Democrats that don't really understand what Democrats really represent, and that would be the blue collar Democrats of today. Hey, my father voted Democrat, my grandfather voted Democrat, so that's why I vote Democrat. But do you really understand what the party is about? No. They've gone so far off the reservation. It really has become the party of the underachieving loser who wants everybody else to conform to their whining temper tantrums. And I, for one, say, screw you. If you don't like it, hey, lock yourself in your room, cry yourself to sleep on your big Elizabeth Warren pillow, but leave society alone, because most of us are actually interested in going out and living our lives responsibly, not capitulating to your emotional temper tantrum-based whims. So grow up.
I'm going to caveat that those people are being manipulated by the academic elites and society's elites who...
That's why we call them useful idiots. All right, going to take a quick break. 833-603-8255. If you would like to opine, we'd love to hear from you. Much more of Granite State Live coming up right after this.
New Hampshire Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte has been making a lot of noise about how she's funding education. The Republican budget she just signed provides more money for education than ever before. She even bragged the other day that New Hampshire is top 10 in the country when it comes to funding our children's education, as if giving money to school systems has anything to do with learning. If you look at the math, and if you got schooled in New Hampshire, the odds are good it's not your best subject. It's the exact opposite. The more money we throw at schools, the less kids learn. We're committed to wasting money on an experiment that failed, unless wasting money to drive parents to homeschool their kids was the goal. We prefer to pick on Democrats, lower hanging fruit and all that, but our rhetorical woodshed doesn't discriminate. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
Would you rather spend time with family and friends in the pool or at the barbecue rather than landscaping your yard? Well, Augusta Lawn Care is here to help you with all of your landscaping needs. Proudly serving southern New Hampshire, we handle everything. Weekly mowing, spring and fall cleanups, bush trimming, mulch installs, lawn treatments, aeration, dethatching, and even snow plowing and salting when the dreaded winter hits. Call Augusta Lawn Care today and let your yard be the best looking yard on the block. Call 603-331-4768. Augusta Lawn Care, locally owned, professionally done. Call 603-331-4678 or visit us online at AugustaLawnCareServices.com/Londonderry. That's AugustaLawnCareServices.com/Londonderry.
United We Stand, A Marine's Fight. Written by Julian Aiello. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aiello. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.
All right, welcome back to this Tuesday, the 5th day of August edition of Granite State Live. Great to have you along. I just wanted to, if you could, recall, Juan, if you would please, bring up the studio shot. That's a big-ass monitor. I got to say, we had this small little, I think it was like a 28-inch monitor, and then Juan drops this big-ass, I don't know, what is it, 50-inch? This is impressive. I like this. It's bigger than... I don't know. It's like Christmas came early. Thank you, Juan. I appreciate it. It's nice to know that we have a producer who has our back. All right, 833-603-8255 if you would like to tell either one of us what an insensitive, racist asshole we are for, body shaming the 500-pound, lardvarks that are lumbering around Walmart. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to candy coat it because if you are one of those people, you don't need the extra calories. But let us know what you think. GraniteStateLive@gmail.com is the email address if you would like to opine. You can even do it anonymously, which, a lot of the cowards that like to, oh, you people are all racist, and then I'm going to give you a fake name because, you're a coward. That's what you do. GraniteStateLive@gmail.com. That's GraniteStateLive@gmail.com. 833-603-8255. If you would like to leave a hate-filled, rhetoric-based message, you can do that as well, too. See, we love our leftist progressive friends. So,
All right. So up next here on the line with us is Thomas Aiello, the Senior Director of Government Affairs for National Taxpayers Union. He works to promote pro-taxpayer policies within the halls of Congress and within the Trump administration. His contention is that the new tariffs will cost Americans an average of $2,048 per year. Thank you, sir, for coming on the show.
Hey guys, good evening. Thanks for having me.
So where the 2,000, we'll just round up and say $2,050 a year. Where are those costs coming from? What is the biggest source of that?
So all of that comes from the tariffs that we've put in place. Right now, the Trump administration, they've put in seems to be a baseline of 15% on all the trade deals that we've done with the EU, Japan, and South Korea, plus 10% on the UK. Those are deals that are on the books. Those are good deals. We would have liked to see those tariff rates a little bit lower, but they are what they are. Now, what is the biggest uncertainty right now is the 30% tariffs across the board for everything coming into the United States. That means China is subject to those rates as well as everything else. And these are everyday goods that people use on a daily basis. I noticed that both of you are drinking coffee, including Cafe Bustelo, looks like Dunkin' Donuts. Our number one import product from Brazil, Costa Rica, and Honduras happens to be coffee. So we think and all of those places are subject to the 50% tariff rate, which is higher than the 30%. So your everyday cup of coffee is going to cost a little bit more because of the tariffs.
All right. So one of the things that I was tooling over in preparation for you coming on was I see a lot of the numbers coming out of National Taxpayer Unions and other organizations, and I want to know, because a lot of the viewers have been saying, and I've been in with them and saying that a lot of these tariffs are strategic in order to force reshoring of manufacturing and production in the United States. And I'm seeing that we do have evidence of the reshoring taking place between General Motors, Hyundai, IBM, Abbott Laboratories, Johnson & Johnson, various other industries. Is that reshoring of manufacturing, those jobs and economic production domestically, going to counteract the tariffs? Are they going to ease the pain a little bit on American citizens?
It will a little bit, but I'll just add GM, who you mentioned, they actually had a net loss in the second quarter of this year of $1.1 billion because of the tariffs. They paid $1.2 billion in tariffs, and they had a $1.1 billion loss. So when they import these products from places like Canada and Mexico, it's not the country paying the tariff, it's the importer, and the importer happens to be GM. So either they eat those costs or they pass them along. And I think President Trump is exactly right that we need to reshore manufacturing. And we just don't think tariffs are an effective way to do it. We've proposed a 3-step process to address it. One is tax certainty through the One Big Beautiful Bill. That is now law of the land, obviously. It had a lot of really good pro-growth provisions that'll help streamline American manufacturing. 2 is American energy dominance. One of the top 3 input costs for manufacturers is energy. The last administration put a stranglehold on oil and gas production. With this new administration in here, we're hopeful, and we're already seeing it, that we'll have an American energy renaissance. And the third one is permitting reform. It takes way too long to build a factory in the United States.
I completely agree. One of the things I did want to ask is, when it comes to General Motors, how much is that of that loss is because of their hyper focus on EV manufacturing, which requires us to get a lot of imports from China? I have often been a advocate and stalwart for America has all of the things, resources, and everything we need to create gas combustion engines here domestically without a problem, whereas China is the exact opposite. They have everything they need to produce EVs at low cost, and with the American auto industry through EPA regulations and ESG scores and so on and so forth being forced to get into the EV market, even when the market prior to the market being available here in the United States or widely accepted here in the United States, is that not sinking a lot of their profit? Because I'm seeing GM and other auto manufacturers up their prices of their combustion vehicles to make up for the losses they're getting in the EV vehicles.
Yeah, in some cases they are. That's exactly right. And then you noted that we're reliant on China for a lot of these critical minerals. We import about 90% of our critical minerals coming from China. So I think what the administration is doing now by eliminating the EV mandate, ending the electric vehicle tax credit in the One Big Beautiful Bill is all great stuff. And then they're going to be repealing a number of grants for things like electric superchargers and a number of other pro-electric vehicle grants. So I think at the end of the day, if you want to buy an EV, that's great. If you want to buy an internal combustion engine car, that's just as fine. We shouldn't be putting our finger on the scale one way or the other. And I think, for a company like GM, they wanted to diversify their product offering given consumer demand. That seems to be tempering off a little bit. And I think they'll be making their adjustments as it is. And, if they're able to produce more in the United States, that's a great thing. But at the end of the day, any small business or big business will tell you trade is a very good thing for the country. And the more certainty we have with trade deals, whether it's a 15% tariff, a 0% tariff, or even a 100% tariff, the more that they know and they can plan accordingly, the better it will be for them and their consumers. So hopefully the more trade deals we are able to accomplish, the more certainty businesses can have, and they can invest their dollars and give consumers the best products possible.
I do want to preface this with a caveat for the viewers. General Motors has not actually reshored yet. They said they're going to reshore, so they are going to take losses up until that reshoring takes place, and hopefully the permitting, as you mentioned, will ease that process and make it easier to build factories and start hiring domestically. So
yeah, I think you're exactly right. And then I've been watching the show since the top of the hour, and you mentioned we can't believe it's almost the end of summer already. They're going to have pumpkins out, pumpkin spice lattes. I was having a conversation with an importer who's already thinking about Christmas time. And they import artificial Christmas trees from places like China and Indonesia. With these tariffs in place, they're importing them now. And once they import them, they're going to have to charge a higher price this year for Christmas trees than they did last year. And I think that's just one example. The coffee is the other one. Unfortunately, we don't grow coffee in the United States except for Hawaii. So we just need to be a little bit more strategic with the tariffs. If we are going to have a tariff strategy, we just can't have an across the board, 15 or 30% rate. It needs to be a little bit more targeted than what we're seeing.
All the more reason to buy American. I mean, that's the simple. I mean, I get the whole thing with the coffee, but I mean, there are so many companies that when they look at the economic landscape in this country, they say, you know what, there's absolutely no financial benefit for us having a manufacturing facility here in the United States. So let's move it overseas. It's a matter of economic survival for these companies. And what would be really nice is to see these companies incentivized to bring their manufacturing bases back to the United States to put American jobs in. First thing we got to do is we got to kick the illegals out, because the illegals are taking jobs and they're taking hourly rates that people, they just don't want to work for. That's the bottom line. Here's the thing. Would I rather pay more money to support American workers, or would I rather pay more money to support businesses that are outside of the United States in the form of tariffs? I got to be honest with you. Okay. Either way, I'm taking it up the you-know-what, because that's what we do as American taxpayers. We get gouged. We're ATM machines for political ruling elite. All right. So let's be completely honest about this. So if I'm going to wind up paying more money that's going to go to another company overseas, or I'm going to pay more money to be able to support American workers, I'll take the latter. I'll take the latter any day.
Yeah, I can understand that point of view. I think trade has been a very important economic driver for the United States. And then as companies adjust their supply chains accordingly, this has been a really tumultuous time for small businesses and big businesses. Small businesses, they have to think, 2 months out, 4 months out. Big companies have to think a year out. So if you don't know what your tariff is going to be, or if you're even able to trade with certain countries a year from now, it's very difficult for them to plan and deploy capital. And I think that's part of the administration's strategy for how they incentivize or disincentivize American companies from keeping that capital here in the United States. So we're already seeing that. And then at the same time, auto companies and manufacturing places, big cost for them is labor. they're not investing in places like Michigan anymore, where you have the unions having a stranglehold on the production line. They're going to places like Texas, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And I think that's part of the approach too. When you look at the profitability for cars, there's a strategy that, yes, we should look at Mexico and Canada, but we also need to look at more labor-friendly states that don't have the union control like Michigan does.
Yeah, I wrote an article on the auto industry and the failures of it. I want to say about a year ago, and one of the things that I dug into deep was the refusal, the abject refusal to manufacture in the United States almost every Dodge. You know, Motor City used to be a staple of the United States back when I lived in Dayton, Ohio, just south of Detroit, and we had a lot of auto factories, and we watched them close down one after the other as manufacturing went down to Mexico or went to Canada, and then all of a sudden, all the American-made autos were no longer made in America. And I think that's a damn shame for American society, not just because our own products aren't made here as, you know, just a staple of Americana, but the products that are being made in these other countries, being incentivized through the EPA and different regulations, are products that the American citizens don't actually want. Therefore, they sit on lots and then they end up getting sold for pennies on the dollar. One of the things I did see, and I don't know if you have looked into it, the EV manufacturing, I saw China can manufacture an EV for so cheap that we could put a 200% tariff on it and it would still come in cheaper than the lowest American production cars because of the stranglehold that the unions have on the market. Have you seen
that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, China, they have a lot of state-owned enterprises that are able to subsidize all of these things. Plus, they produce so much electricity at a cheap cost because they're reliant not on solar and wind, but things like baseload power, like oil, natural gas, and coal. Obviously, the previous administration and the Obama administration tried to put coal out of business, and to a large extent, they did. That's why I'm hopeful with the Trump administration taking a more pro-energy approach. We'd be able to power our factories with the oil and natural gas and coal that has powered our factories in the past. But I would just note, tariffs add costs to consumers, as we talked about earlier today. If we can produce parts at a cheaper cost in places like Mexico and Canada, but assemble them here in the United States for an American manufactured car, that's a good thing because it is able to keep the cost of a car as affordable as possible for everyday people. We all know the inflation has gone out of control over the past 5 years. We just think tariffs will add inflationary pressure onto the economy, make it harder for people to purchase things that they want to purchase, and at the same time actually harm job creation in the United States. And in some cases, the tariffs are showing up in the job numbers. Even consumer spending is starting to decline ever so slightly. It's not, we need to hit the panic button, but at the same time, we need to look out that, hey, maybe something is slightly off in the economy, and we need to slightly change course to make sure that this doesn't get out of hand.
So what is the policy that the National Taxpayers Union and yourself would like to see from the Trump administration when it comes to tariffs? Would you like to see more of the strategic approach of using tariffs to get other countries to drop their tariffs to mitigate some of the trade imbalances that we have in markets where we could be self-sufficient or we could produce and export more, or and get away from the idea of using tariffs for monetary gain, for revenue purposes?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I think tariffs are a leverage point that the administration is taking. I think we need to have a specific purpose at the end of the day, and that purpose needs to be zero tariffs on both sides of the Atlantic and the Pacific. We shouldn't be charging other countries 15% just for accessing our market, the same way they shouldn't be charging us 15% to access their market with a whole bunch of non-tariff barriers that they have. At the same time, Europe is going after American technology companies. That needs to end. And I'm hopeful as we see the details of these trade deals come out that that'll be part of the conversation. I think it's great that these countries have said they're going to purchase more American energy and invest more in the United States. That's all great. We're just a little concerned that having a tariff rate that is 12 times higher than it was at the start of the year will ultimately come back to bite us at the end of the day, both adding inflationary pressures to prices, harming jobs in the United States, and then ultimately undermining some of the trade alliances that have been built over the last few decades, I should say.
So let's assume for a moment that there actually is no, and I'm just going to call them access fees. Tariffs are access fees. You want to access our, and I like the way you worded it. You want to access our market. We have a lot of consumers. We have a lot of people who spend money they don't have on shit they don't need. That's why the credit card. This is the credit industry is going to come crashing down here not too soon. But you want to get access to all other people that have credit cards to spend money that they don't have on things they don't need. Okay, great. So we're going to charge you 15% or whatever the case may be. What would you see the landscape looking like if there were no user fees and participation fees? If it was just free trade across the board and you could just market whatever you would want to here, what's the downside on that? Because we have to look 2 or 3 steps down. What are the unintended secondary or tertiary consequences of a decision like that?
So, if there's no tariffs or fees or non-trade barriers, I think that's a really good thing. We should want to be able to trade with our neighbors. We're 5% of the world population. We need to be able to access 95% of other markets. I think China certainly needs to open up their market to American businesses and American manufactured goods.
But they're stealing our IP, though. That's the one thing that China is not interested in doing business with the United States for any reason other than economic dominance. That's what we want to. That's their whole goal. Steal our intellectual property, reverse engineer our technology, and make us dependent on the Chinese.
Unrestricted warfare.
We have a point that they're stealing our IP. That I'm not going to disagree with you there, and I'm hopeful as they hammer out the details of the trade deal, that'll be part of it.
All right. I completely agree. But my contention with the Chinese government and the way they engage with trade is that they have been engaged in unrestricted warfare using their economic production or their economic ability to manufacture at low costs worldwide through their Belt and Road Initiative, entrench other governments, or I should say indenture other governments to their own and supplant the U.S. dollar, both on a trade level, macroeconomic level. How do you see us being able to trade with China, given that they've taken such an antagonistic position towards the entirety of the U.S. government and U.S. economy as a whole?
It's difficult to say. I would just say, the way we can bring countries closer together is through mutual exchange of goods. Our farmers, right? They are a solid Republican voting bloc. They are very concerned about the tariffs because China is such a big purchaser of soybeans and wheat and things like that, things that we grow, and beef as well. So I think our concern is if we do have a trade war with China, it's not just about things that we manufacture, but it's the things that we grow. And over the past few years, the price of soybeans has really cratered and has impacted a lot of family farms that need to access these markets, because if they don't, we Americans simply cannot eat soybeans for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We need to be able to sell our things abroad. So I know that's one piece of the puzzle, and the administration is looking at exactly how we deal with some of the issues that you brought up with IP. And I think that there will be a trade deal at the end of the day. That's what I'm hearing from our sources up on the Hill. And they're taking a more optimistic approach than they were just 2 weeks ago. So hopefully that there is a deal in the next few days, and it'll give both farmers and manufacturers and consumers a little bit more certainty as they go into the second half of the year.
So do you see economic and trade stability, some sort of market stability when it comes to these tariffs coming in the near future, or do you see more instability?
I do see more certainty coming into the picture, and I think the Fed sees that as well. I know that they didn't cut interest rates last week, which I think was a misstep on their part. We'll get a little bit more inflation data and another 2 jobs report before they cut interest rates. They decide to cut interest rates. I think the trade deals is one part of the puzzle. The problem is I think we all expected a zero. We want 0% tariffs on both sides of a trade deal. That doesn't appear to be the case. It seems like the new baseline is going to be 15%. Now, the importers will pay that 15% tariff rate, so it's going to bite into their profits, at least for the next year or so. And then they're going to pass some of those costs along to consumers. So it's really hard to see what the full impact is going to be because, like I said, the importers are going to pay it. Will they eat 75% of it, pass 25% along to the consumer, or will they pass the full thing along to the consumer? It's really difficult to tell, but hopefully the more of these trade deals become finalized, that puzzle will become a little bit more clearer, and we'll have more data to determine, do we need to cut rates or keep them where they are?
Thomas Aiello, Senior Director of Government Affairs for National Taxpayers Union, joining us on Granite State Live. Here, one of the concerns that I would have with this, and if I were a major manufacturer outside of the United States, it's only a matter of time. This is a waiting game because I know in 3.5 years, Trump's out. That's it. And so if we wind up having Democrats that wind up taking over in the White House, or if we wind up having a Democrat majority, or if we wind up getting shellacked in the midterms, because never ever underestimate the ability of the Republicans to lose. You're going to wind up having a changing of the guard or a changing of the control in Washington, D.C. means a change to these policies, or these policies literally dead in the water. Do you see a lot of conforming to these requests, or do you see more of it, hey, you know what, we're going to wait this out because this is crazy, and sooner or later we know we're going to have a more globalist president in the office, and so we don't have to worry about this come 3 years down the road?
You raise an interesting point, and I'll just point to the EU trade deal. They'll be purchasing natural gas and energy, at least for the next 3 years, a $750 billion deal. It's interesting that they chose that timing, so it'll run out in 2028. But at the same time, at least we'll have that clarity for the next 3 years that the tariff will be 15%, I should say, plus the $750 billion purchases of American LNG. It's a little bit more tricky for them to change their suppliers after 3 years, especially as they build that gas infrastructure to account for American gas rather than Russian gas. So I would say that, for that trade deal, at least, I don't see that those changes or those provisions would change anytime soon.
It's interesting when you look at the changing of the guards, and I mean, you can say this for anything, whether it's taxes or whether it's Second Amendment issues or tariffs or manufacturing or just the economy in general, even inflation. It used to be that, for the most part, you had a Democrat that was in office, you had a Republican that was in office. Okay, maybe you're looking at a little bit of an increase in taxes, maybe not, but life really wasn't going to change. The parties have moved so far away from each other now that a changing of the guard represents a fundamental, in the words of Obama, a fundamental transformation of the lifestyle and the economic stability of business and citizens in this country. And I think this is a tipping point here, because when the economic stability of business and the economic stability of individual private citizens can be so significantly impacted by the changing of a party, this doesn't spell success for us down the road. And, like any, good political pundit, I'm not looking at next year or 2 years down the road. I'm looking at 10 years, 20 years down the road, because the policies of today are going to be indicative of what we're going to see magnified 10 years, 20 years down.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at the House of Representatives right now. We have a 5-6 seat majority, and we only have a majority because President Trump was able to drag a few of those people over the finish line last November. And if that didn't happen, we wouldn't have been able to get the one big beautiful bill passed. We also wouldn't have been able to even consider a second reconciliation bill to address our national debt, or pass a rescissions bill to claw back some of the Doge findings from Elon. And I'm hopeful we'll have more of those to come over the next few months as well. So, I think as we look forward at more trade deals, there needs to be a recognition that if we say it's going to be 15%, we stick to that, and we don't try and change and reopen the trade deals as we move along. And I think that would give a lot of certainty to places like Japan, who have said, we're going to invest $500 billion into the United States. We expect a 15% tariff on our products. But if the president were to say, actually, I want it to be $600 billion, and if you don't do what I say, we're going to raise the tariff to 25 or 50%. I think that's where it gets a little bit tricky and also makes it much more difficult for allies to trust what we have to say and makes deal making that much harder. So hopefully, the president understands that if we make a deal, we need to stick to the deal.
Thomas Aiello, Senior Director of Government Affairs for National Taxpayers Union. If people want to check out your website, what is the URL for that?
They can go to ntu.org. That's N as in national, T as in taxpayer, U as in union.org.
All right. Thomas Aiello, a New York Yankees fan. We're not going to hold that against him. Thank you so much for being a part of the program tonight. Certainly appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, and that is going to do it for this week's edition of Granite State Live. Great to be back in the captain's chair here tonight. So I will definitely be back next week as well. Thanks to Julian for holding the fort down here for the past couple of weeks, and we want to thank you guys for tuning in as well too. Granite State Live at gmail.com. That's Granite State Live at gmail.com. If you would like to send us lots of rhetoric-based hate mail, that's where you can send it to. Also, leave us a message, 833-603-8255. That's 833-603-8255.
Make sure to follow Ram TV, that's Right America Media, on all platforms. Make sure to reshare, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you next week.
All right. Be safe and be nice to one another, folks. Civility does work. God bless everybody.